Well, hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us on Logistics Executive TV. Today, I'm joined by a young lady who is involved in the executive coaching and personal development space. She has a significant corporate history. She's a bit of a global traveler, and I'm very pleased to welcome Mariana Marcano Franco from somewhere in Australia. Mariana, hola.
Hola, Kim. Thank you for inviting me to be here.
Thanks for joining us, Mariana. And whereabouts in the fine land of Australia are you hailing from today?
I'm joining from the capital of Australia, Canberra.
There you go. Something to folks outside of Australia, possibly not as well known as to the folks from inside of Australia. Canberra, of course, is the Australian Capital Territory and is the capital, in fact, the capital city, not Melbourne, not Sydney, but Canberra.
Exactly. That's why I highlight that. There's a lot of confusion around Sydney and Melbourne, but here we are, Canberra.
Fantastic. Well, Mariana, we're going to have a chat to you today about executive coaching. You're a very experienced executive coach. You've got a significant corporate history. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about your corporate and employment history, both from a national and international perspective.
Yes, Kim. Background is in corporate comms, corporate communications, and very focused on internal communications in the past. And with a lot of exploration, I discovered that internal comms was sort of my channel to influence people and to help people in a positive way to find and to unlock their potential. So when I discovered that, probably 7 years ago, I dived into the world of leadership development and the world in the life coaching and then organizational coaching. And yes, it has been my journey since then. And I think big part of the influence is to, well, as you mentioned, being a global adventurer, trying to explore different cultures globally to understand what actually drive us, right? And understanding that we all have potential, and sometimes it's really hidden potential, and it's my passion to unlock that. So yeah, that's pretty much how I navigated different countries, different cities in Australia. I'm from Venezuela originally, and I also lived in Panama. And yeah, just trying new things, exploring, and finding the passion in everything I do in different steps.
Sure. Now, we've talked off camera about our mutual involvement in executive coaching over many, many years. I'd like you to share perhaps, first of all, tell us a little bit about your qualifications in executive coaching, because we are an alumni, I understand.
Yes, we share that. So I'm part of I was certified by the Institute of Executive Coaching and Leadership here in Australia, which, I got my organizational coaching certification with them. A while ago, I also got my life coaching certification by a training called Robbins Madanes from Tony Robbins' team. And I lately completed a Hogan assessment certification, which is Hogan is a personality tool, and it's used to measure personality traits, values, and leadership potential. It has a lot of different areas there, but yeah, that's the latest.
Brilliant. Yeah, Hogan's one of the biggest tools that we see many of our corporate customers from our recruitment side of our business engage with that. They either get us to introduce the Hogan assessments, or they do it themselves. Now, the IECL, as you said, that's where we're an alumni. I spent 3 very memorable days in a deep involvement camp with the International Executive Coaching and Leadership Federation in Sydney at the time, about 10, 12 years ago. Actually, big change in my career, because I always thought I was a bit of a coach, being in senior roles over the last 30 odd years, but I found that I was more a mentor rather than a coach. And of course, executive coaching under the International Coaching Federation, under which most coaching organizations around the world work, is about certain techniques. So perhaps from your perspective, you could explain to our audience what is executive coaching in general terms. And we don't have 5 hours to talk about it because that's how far you could probably go. But in a quick, rounded couple of sentences, what is executive coaching? And talk to me about a couple of the models and the platforms that are used in international coaching.
Look, through executive coaching, we focus on improving the counterpart. That's how we call our clients, effectiveness in their role. And we provide personalized support. So as I said at the beginning, we can guide the person to unlock their potential. And that might be, specific needs to this person, goals and leadership style. Focusing on different areas, decision making, communication, conflict management, strategic thinking. It's a big part of what we do is guide self-awareness, reflection, and accountability, and how counterparts can navigate different challenges they face in the workplace.
Sure. Well done, because consolidating exactly what executive coaching is all about into that level of sentences is a no mean feat. So well done, and thanks for that. Hey, well, that's great, Mariana. Look, talking about techniques and platforms and structures used within executive coaching. What are under the International Coaching Federation, IECL? Talk to me about the sort of techniques that you tend to use during the coaching with your counterparts.
Yes, Kim. It changes, right? But one of my favorite frameworks is GROW, GROW. Being the G, focus on the goal, which is one of the a great way to start a conversation. So you agree on a topic, you explore. What's the meaning of what they need to explore? What is it that they are expecting to get out of the coaching sessions? And that's where the counterpart brings the challenges they're facing. The R stands up for reality. And this is where you explore what others are saying, what is relevant, you explore the current situation. And then you got the O. This is my favorite part of the framework because you get to explore the options. So you see transformation there in their faces or in the body language. They start talking about different suggestions, brainstorm what's possible, and you also see how they prioritize the different options they brainstorm, and then the W, you do the wrap up, and depending on the options they brainstormed, they commit to action. They actually identified possible obstacles they can face, what is possible, and agree on different supports and make all of the different steps very specific to get to that outcome. Okay. So, yeah.
So that's and that all rings very much true with our team as well. We all use the GROW model. It's great to be able to refer to, and I think it's not always just a plain journey from GROW. It's quite often you find yourself going back to say, okay, well, I've just talked about the options. Maybe some of those aren't really as useful as we could. Let's go back to reality. So go Absolutely. Back up the snakes and ladders board, if you like, to see, okay, let's revisit reality, and then let's have another look at what all of those options actually are.
And, sometimes in the following session, you do a regrow. So you visit and do a little bit of reflection of what we discovered or explored in the previous session, and then do regrow. And it's a fantastic cycle that you create through this particular framework.
Yeah, and of course, as coaches, any coach with their soul will tell you that we're all victims of growth and development, and I think every single executive coaching assignment I've ever been involved in over the last 15 years or so, I've learned a lot. There's always more learning to be done, and there's growth in all of us. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thanks for explaining that. I think a lot about executive coaching is demystifying some of the most interesting conversations we have, and we work with a lot of multinational organisations. Tends to be the case, I'm sure, with you. I think you work a lot with government as well, because Canberra is the head of federal government anyway in Australia. It's a bit of a government town. So commiserations on that. And it's a very cold place, I might add as well. You're at a very high elevation, skiing close by, but it's damn cold. So you're about to head into a very cold period now, I think, aren't you?
No, the opposite.
Of course you are. Yeah, of course you are.
Yeah, remember that
you're going
is,
into summer. I often
we're
forget.
getting into summer.
Yeah, well, I was only in Australia for 30 years, so good God. So talk to me a little bit about what you're seeing as some of the most common issues that companies are coming to you with. And is it the individuals, the executives that are coming to you independently, or do they the companies tend to come to you and say, listen, Mariana, this is the issue we want to deal with. We've got an executive here that we're working with. He's either high potential and we want to get more out of he or she, or we have somebody who's not quite, stepping up to the mark. We want you to work with them to enhance certain factors. Now, from my perspective, it's always absolutely essential, of course, that there's a three-way street if you're dealing with a corporate. Is that the case with you? And what are some of the most common issues that the counterpart and the organisation ask you to facilitate and work with?
Look, it's a bit of both. Sometimes I do have my private clients that are coming, to me by referrals, or sometimes different events that I'm a master of ceremony or a keynote presentation, and from that they come. But yeah, you're right. Normally, is the organization wanting to work on different leaders on high performance teams. That's the big one, and that includes a lot of how we can collaborate better, and assertive communication, key element. Everyone struggles with assertive communication, so that's one of the biggest thing. Understanding personalities, styles to be able to collaborate. There's also important conflict and change management. Huge, especially now. There's so many changes going on. There's a huge digital transformation. So how we keep up and how we motivate people to understand and embrace change. So those are big. And more into individuals, we talk to a lot about career progression and career development, and how can I transfer skills? How can I train myself to my next leadership role? So or how to get a promotion. So those are the topics that come, and they all come with, I need clarity. We need clarity. We need to find what's the purpose here. So yeah, I will say that those are the top 5, top 7, I think I mentioned, that they're across all of the different organizations.
Sure. And what do you find tends to be the length of engagement for there probably isn't a typical period of time for which an executive coaching engagement lasts, but what's the normal plan? Over what period of time do organisations usually engage you, and does it tend to work within that time frame that you get everything done that you want to work with your counterpart and yourself and the organisation, or does it tend to go over a longer period of time from your experience?
Look, it really depends of the counterpart needs, right? As you know, these behaviors don't change overnight, and it takes time, commitment, self-reflections, and self-awareness of many things. But I go with the minimum. I'll say to start that self-reflection and that self-communication, I'll say 3 sessions is the minimum, but it normally could be, up to 1 year. And 6, I do programs of 3, 6, and 12, and there obviously can be extended depending on the needs of the client. So yeah, it all depends, but I do believe in the long-term work, because that's my experience as an individual in the professional world. It's consistency, frequency, and intention there that works.
Sure. And what we found in our teams and working with clients myself in the space is that minimum usually about 6 months. And then if we're getting good results, then perhaps the frequency diminishes, but it stretches out over a 1 to 2 year period. Very much about what the candidate or the compatriot that you're working with, counterpart, which is the correct language that you're using under ICF terms, would like to go with. And of course, you've got to have the company support. And coming to that, what sort of measurements and outcomes do you set outcomes to begin with, targeted outcomes? You talk about the GROW model, which we've seen on the screen. What sort of outcomes and measurements are you able to sit down with your counterpart and your client sponsor company to look at how you've progressed over time?
Well, there are different things that you have to work. So if you're working with an organization, there are different ways that they can measure that high performance in this particular individual. It could be, through the annual employee survey that, they measure how the behaviors are changing, or, depending on what it is. But that's one great thing. I mean, interviews, having the conversations, what's the impact you're seeing, right? After a period of time, depending on what the need was at the beginning, what is the behavior you're seeing after 6 months, let's say, right? So that's a good way of measuring. And with particular individuals, and this is where the follow-up comes very, is fundamental for me, even though sometimes it's not even part of sessions that they engaged or they pay for. I do believe in follow-up, because when I follow up, I looked at the needs when they hire me or when they engage with me, and then the commitments, and then how have you maintained the commitments and the new things that you committed to pretty much over time. So follow-up is key, I'll say.
Okay. And if you were to identify 2 or 3 of the greatest challenges that you come across as an executive coach, we have terms and conditions, all international accredited international coaches have certain terms and conditions, and those sort of all around security, confidentiality, non-involvement on a personal level, all of those sorts of sensible things that you'd have in there from a probity point of view. What do you find are some of the biggest challenges that you tend to come across? Are there any trends at the moment that you're seeing over the last year or two that really pressure you as a coach to really dig deep with your skill level?
Oh, I think the learning process never ends, and there's always challenges. I'll say that working with conditions, like PTSD, for example, is one of the biggest ones, and that's completely doable. But you have to have this, as part of the code of conduct, understanding those conditions, if possible, working with the therapist or the psychologist of this person, if there's one. If not, you also recommend. So there's a lot of processes that we follow if those conditions are there. It is challenging because it takes you out of the comfort zone, but at the same time, it's a good opportunity to create an ecosystem that supports the counterpart, which at the end of the day, it's what matters. So I think that's one of the ones that I'm seeing more and more.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting. One of the greatest things, the biggest challenges in amongst the coaching community that I tend to be involved with more regularly is this crossover point of what is business and what is personal. And inevitably, we're all people, we're all human beings, we all have behavior patterns that a lot of us live to work, and a lot of people work to live. But there's this crossover, and one of the greatest challenges I see in the coaching communities, both here in the Middle East and in Australia, that I deal with, is this: where do you draw the line? And I think the code of conduct that you talk about is very, very important. And all coaches, and that's signed off by the coach, the coachee, the counterpart, and the sponsor, of course, the sponsoring company.
Yeah.
So that's something you've always got to reflect on, and I've certainly had to draw on that a number of times myself and say, listen, you'll need to see some other specialist around that area because that's clinical or psychological, and it's something you'll need to deal with that we can't deal with here under our terms and conditions. So it's something that's very important.
Yes, it is. It is.
Yeah. So from your perspective, what are your greatest passions? I mean, what are the things that you most enjoy about coaching?
Look, as I said, when I was talking about this particular client, it's just seeing that phase of the transformation. Body language tells you a lot of things, and the body speaks. And then seeing that phase when people discover things, or when people take the time, and silence is really powerful because it is uncomfortable, but out of that, that lots of thoughts and things that you never consider come. And I do enjoy seeing that. And of course, I enjoy when people find different options, when they transition from a place of, not clarity or not have that self-confidence into a place where, oh my God, I trust myself. I know I can do this. Or even better, if they're looking for a new job and they didn't know they can transfer skills, they get a new job with the new skills that they transfer. So that's the dream comes true for me when that happens.
Brilliant. Well, Mariana, I really appreciate you sharing time with us today. I know you've got to go to another meeting right now because it's getting very late where you are. But I appreciate the fact that you've been able to clarify and lay out and help up people understand. Hopefully our audience has got a good understanding, a little bit more about the structure, about the qualifications required for accredited coaches, and the difference between, executive coaching and some of the more life coaching issues, if you like, that a lot of people tend to be qualified in as well. Mariana, to wrap up, from your perspective, a couple of questions for you just quickly. If some of our audience were interested in getting involved in executive coaching as a career, what would your recommendation be to them to start that journey of exploration?
Everything starts with a conversation, and when you have a conversation and you verbalize, you get things that are happening here outside, that's a first step. So I will say that having a conversation with me, is the first thing. It's a complimentary session, and what we do is we have this sort of like interaction, and I get really curious of what is it, right? And I'll say that, and that's conversations. It's a good starter.
Excellent. Mariana, where can people get hold of you? How can they make contact with you?
There are two big options. Well, there are many options on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active. If they add me or contact me through LinkedIn, I am there pretty much, and I'm sharing content all the time as well. And that's one option. The other option is my website, elevative.com.au, and that I trust you will share. And they can have a look at my story there as well, but they just need to click elevate your leadership potential, and that will take them to my email. And we can have a conversation or start the conversation there too.
Excellent. Mariana Marcano Franco, originally Venezuela, well-traveled, now in Australia, executive coach, and a bit of a serial entrepreneur by looking at your career. Thank you so much for sharing your valuable time with us. Thank you for sharing with our audience about executive coaching, and we look forward to catch up with you again soon and hear about your journey.
Thank you, team.